She thought the worst thing that could happen in a marriage was falling out of love. She had no idea that some people never fall in at all. They just perform it, flawlessly, until the performance no longer serves them. Maya Chen stood in her kitchen at 2:47 in the morning, holding her husband's phone in hands that had started to shake. The screen cast a pale blue glow across her face, illuminating the tears that hadn't yet formed but were coming, inevitable as dawn. She was looking at a photograph. Just one image among hundreds. But this one made her knees weak, made her set the phone down on the counter like it had burned her palm. In the photo, her husband was kissing another woman's temple. The woman was blonde, younger, smiling at the camera with the kind of unguarded joy that only comes from feeling completely safe with someone. Her hand rested on her visibly pregnant belly, and Derek, Maya's husband of 3 years, had his arm wrapped around her shoulders, protective and tender. The caption read, "Can't wait to meet our little girl." The geotag said Austin, Texas. 3 days ago, the same 3 days Derek had told Maya he was in Phoenix for a pharmaceutical sales conference. Maya's first thought, strange and detached, was that she should sit down. Her second thought was that if she sat down, she might never get back up. Let's go back to before the phone, before the photo, before the moment everything shattered. Let's go back to when Maya Chen believed she knew her own life. Maya had always been careful, methodical, the kind of person who made lists and checked them twice, who researched purchases for weeks before committing, who never acted on impulse. It was a trait she'd inherited from her parents, who had immigrated from Taiwan when she was 2 years old and built their lives in America through precision and sacrifice. Her father liked to say that careless people didn't survive in a new country. You had to pay attention. You had to see things clearly. She'd applied that same careful attention to her career. At 27, she was a pediatric nurse at Riverside Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, working the day shift in a unit that specialized in cardiac care for children. It was demanding work, emotionally exhausting, but she was good at it. Parents trusted her. Kids responded to her gentle manner, her patience, her ability to explain frightening procedures in ways that made them less scary. Her colleagues respected her competence. Her supervisor had mentioned a management track. Maya had a 5-year plan that included a graduate degree and eventually a position in hospital administration. She had her life organized into neat compartments: career, marriage, future family, financial stability, everything in its place. Her marriage to Derek had seemed like the natural next step in a carefully constructed life. They'd met 5 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding in Cleveland. Maya had been a bridesmaid, Derek a groomsman. He'd asked her to dance during the reception, and she'd been charmed by his confidence, the easy way he moved through conversation, how he seemed genuinely interested in her work, her thoughts, her dreams. He was handsome in a conventional way. Dark hair always perfectly styled. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, which meant he was polished, articulate, skilled at reading people and adapting to what they needed. He made good money. He had ambition. Her parents had approved immediately when she brought him home for dinner 3 months into dating. They'd dated for 2 years before he proposed. He'd taken her to the same restaurant where they'd had their first official date, got down on one knee in front of the entire dining room. The ring was modest but tasteful, exactly what she would have chosen herself. She'd said yes without hesitation. The wedding was small, elegant, held at a botanical garden with close family and friends. Her mother had cried throughout the ceremony. Her father had shaken Derek's hand and told him he was gaining a son. Derek's own parents, divorced and remarried to other people, had flown in from opposite coasts and managed to be civil for the weekend. Everything had gone smoothly. Everything had felt right. Their life together had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. They bought a small 2-bedroom house in a quiet suburb, the kind of neighborhood where people waved to each other while mowing lawns and kids rode bikes in cul-de-sacs. Maya tended a small garden in the backyard, growing tomatoes and herbs that she used in the simple meals she prepared. Derek teased her lovingly about her cooking, which was competent but never adventurous. He traveled frequently for work, 3, sometimes 4 days a week. Pharmaceutical sales required constant regional conferences, client meetings, presentations at hospitals and clinics across the Midwest. Maya had grown accustomed to his absences. She used the time to catch up with friends, to work extra shifts, to have quiet evenings reading or watching television shows Derek found boring. When he was home, he was attentive. He asked about her day, listened to her stories about difficult patients and hospital politics. He helped with household chores without being asked. He remembered anniversaries and birthdays. He had a coffee mug in their cabinet that said, "World's okayest husband," a gift from Maya that made him laugh. It sat in the cabinet alongside her collection of mugs from hospital charity runs and nursing conferences. They had plans, vague but real. They'd start trying for a baby next year after Maya finished a certification program she'd enrolled in. They'd talked about eventually moving to a bigger house, maybe something with a proper yard, space for kids to play. Derek wanted 2 children, Maya wanted 3. They'd compromised on 2, maybe 3, depending on how the first 2 went. Her parents adored Derek. He'd helped them refinance a loan for their restaurant when they'd hit a rough patch financially, connected them with a banker he knew through work. Her mother made his favorite dishes whenever he came for dinner. Her father called him son, unself-consciously. They asked about him constantly when Maya visited alone. Wanted to know when he'd be back from his trips, whether he was eating well on the road. Maya's best friend Lauren was less effusive in her affection for Derek, but Lauren was less effusive about marriage in general. She was a fellow nurse, 2 years older, divorced at 29 after discovering her ex-husband had been having an affair with a woman from his CrossFit gym. Lauren had a cynical edge now, a wariness about men and relationships that sometimes made Maya uncomfortable. He travels a lot, Lauren would say occasionally, carefully neutral. It's his job, Maya would reply. I know, I'm just saying. A lot of opportunity, a lot of time away. I trust him, Maya would say. And she did, completely, without reservation. Because Derek had never given her a reason not to. He called her every night when he was away. He texted her throughout the day, little updates and inside jokes and photos of boring conference rooms or hotel breakfasts. He always brought her small gifts when he returned. Nothing extravagant, just thoughtful things. A book he've hundreds seen in an airport bookstore that reminded him of her. A scented candle in her favorite scent. A refrigerator magnet from whatever city he'd visited. He was on her health insurance. They had a joint bank account. He'd changed his emergency contact to her name. They'd made wills together, named each other beneficiaries. They were building a life, brick by brick, day by day. It wasn't passionate or dramatic. It was steady, reliable, safe. Maya sometimes wondered if they should be more romantic, more adventurous. Her college roommate had married a man who wrote her poetry and surprised her with spontaneous weekend trips. Lauren's married friends posted anniversary tributes on social media that were paragraphs long, effusive declarations of soul-deep love. Maya and Derek weren't like that. They were quieter, more practical. But practical felt right to Maya. She'd seen her parents' marriage, built on partnership and mutual respect rather than grand gestures. They'd been married 32 years. They still held hands. Practical worked. The night everything changed started ordinarily. Derek had left that morning for a conference in Phoenix. He'd kissed her forehead before heading out at 5:30 a.m., whispered that he loved her while she was still half asleep. She'd worked a full shift at the hospital, come home tired, eaten leftover pasta at the kitchen counter while scrolling through her phone. She'd texted Derek around 8 to ask how his flight was. He'd replied an hour later, landed safe. Conference dinner running late. Love you. She'd gone to bed early, around 10. She had an early shift the next morning. She'd fallen asleep easily, the house quiet around her. She woke at 2:15 a.m. to use the bathroom. When she climbed back into bed, she noticed Derek's phone on his nightstand, plugged into the charger. He'd forgotten it. That was unusual. Derek was attached to his phone, always had it with him. He must have been rushing to make his flight. The screen lit up with a notification. Then another. Then 3 more in quick succession. Maya stared at the glowing rectangle in the darkness. She wasn't the type to snoop. She'd never felt the need. But the notifications kept coming, the phone buzzing insistently against the wood surface of the nightstand. What if it was an emergency? What if his company was trying to reach him? What if something had happened? She picked up the phone. No passcode. He'd never hidden anything from her. The screen showed notifications from Instagram, Facebook, a messaging app she didn't recognize. She opened the phone, telling herself she'd just check if it was work-related, if it was something urgent he'd need to know about. The Photos app was open from whatever he'd been looking at last. Maya's thumb hovered over the screen. This felt like a violation. But the curiosity was a living thing now, insistent and sharp. Just a quick look, just to make sure everything was normal. She opened the app. Recent photos showed the usual things. Pictures of food from restaurants, screenshots of work emails, a photo of their cat, Miso, sleeping on the couch. Everything normal. Then she scrolled down and saw an album she didn't recognize. It wasn't hidden. It was just there, labeled with a heart emoji and the initials, JH. Maya opened it. Her heart was beating faster now, some instinct warning her to stop, to put the phone down, to preserve whatever innocence existed in this moment. But she didn't stop. She scrolled through the photos. There were dozens of them, spanning months, 6 months, maybe more. Derek at a restaurant with a woman Maya had never seen. Blonde, pretty young. They were holding hands across the table, Derek on a beach with the same woman, his arm around her waist, both of them tanned and laughing. Derek in what looked like a living room, the woman curled against his side on a couch, both of them watching something off camera. The woman holding up her left hand, showing off a ring. An engagement ring, Derek kissing her. The woman in profile, her belly visibly rounded. Pregnant, Derek's hand resting on the curve of her stomach. Ultrasound photos, a tiny form in grainy black and white. Text overlay, our baby girl 8 weeks. Maya scrolled faster, her breathing shallow. The most recent photo was from 3 days ago. The same day Derek had told her he was leaving for Phoenix. But the geotag didn't say Phoenix, it said Austin, Texas. In the image, Derek was kissing the woman's temple while she smiled at the camera, radiant and pregnant and completely at ease. Her hand cradled her belly. Derek's expression was tender, protective. The caption, written by Derek from his account, read, "Can't wait to meet our little girl." Maya set the phone down on the counter. Her hands were shaking so badly she was afraid she'd drop it. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of her own breathing, fast and shallow and wrong. She looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. The calendar on the wall with their schedules marked in different colored pens. The photos on the refrigerator held up with magnets from places they'd visited together. The coffee maker set on a timer to brew at 6 a.m. because Derek liked fresh coffee first thing. Everything looked the same. But nothing would ever be the same again. Because somewhere in Texas, a woman was carrying Derek's child, wearing Derek's ring, planning a future with a man who came home to Maya every week and kissed her forehead and called her his wife. Maya picked up the phone again, her hands steadier now, moving with purpose. She started taking screenshots. Every photo, every caption, every geotag. She emailed them to herself from his phone, then deleted the sent email from his outbox. She went through his messages, found conversations with someone saved as J with a heart emoji, months of messages, love notes, plans. Discussions about baby names and nursery colors and wedding dates. She forwarded those to herself too. Then she put everything back exactly as she'd found it. Cleared the recent apps, made sure nothing looked disturbed. Plugged the phone back into the charger at the exact angle it had been. Then Maya walked upstairs to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left inside her but the terrible, crushing truth. Her husband wasn't in Phoenix, he was in Austin, with his pregnant fiancée, living a completely separate life that Maya had never suspected existed. She'd thought she was careful, she'd thought she paid attention, she'd thought she saw things clearly, but she'd been blind to the most important truth of all. The man she'd married, the man she'd trusted with her future, with her heart, with her life, was a stranger. And she'd been sleeping next to him for 3 years without ever knowing who he really was. Maya went to work the next morning because she didn't know what else to do. The alternative was staying home, alone with her thoughts, and that felt impossible. So she showered, dressed in her scrubs, drove to the hospital on autopilot. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles went white. She'd spent the rest of the night sitting on the bathroom floor. Her laptop bounced on her knees, going through the screenshots she'd sent herself, studying them like evidence at a crime scene, because that's what this was, wasn't it? A crime, maybe not legally, but morally. He'd stolen 3 years of her life. He'd stolen her trust, her future, her sense of reality itself. She'd searched the woman's name, Jessica Hartley. It hadn't been hard to find her. Her Instagram was public, filled with pregnancy updates and excited posts about becoming a first-time mom. And there was Derek, tagged in dozens of photos going back 18 months. Smiling at the camera, his hand on Jessica's growing belly. Comments from Jessica's friends and family congratulating them, calling Derek a great guy, saying the baby was lucky to have such devoted parents. Maya had scrolled through Jessica's entire feed with a sick fascination. This woman had no idea Maya existed. In Jessica's world, Derek was her fiancé, her partner, the father of her unborn child. She posted about their future wedding, planned for 6 months after the baby arrived. She shared photos of the nursery they were decorating together, pale yellow walls and a crib shaped like a cloud. She talked about how supportive Derek was, how he never missed a doctor's appointment, how excited he was to be a father. The cruel irony was that Maya liked her. From what she could see online, Jessica seemed sweet, genuine, the kind of person who wrote heartfelt captions and responded to every comment. She worked as a dental hygienist in Austin. She had a close relationship with her mother, who appeared frequently in her posts. She loved hiking and trying new restaurants and reading romance novels. She was 24 years old, 3 years younger than Maya. Young enough to still believe that when someone said they loved you, it was true. At the hospital, Maya moved through her shift like a ghost. She checked vitals, administered medications, spoke to parents in the calm, reassuring voice she'd perfected over years of practice. But inside, she was screaming. One of the attending physicians asked if she was feeling okay. She looked pale, he said. Was she coming down with something? Just tired, she told him. Didn't sleep well. Lauren found her during lunch break, pulled her into the staff break room. The moment the door closed, Lauren took one look at Maya's face and said, "What happened?" Maya showed her the screenshots, watched Lauren's expression shift from confusion to horror to rage. Lauren scrolled through the photos in silence, her jaw clenched tighter with each image. "That absolute piece of shit," Lauren finally said. "Maya, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." "I don't know what to do," Maya whispered. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, distant and hollow. "You call a lawyer," Lauren said immediately. "Today, right now. You document everything. You protect yourself." But Maya couldn't think about lawyers yet. She needed to understand first. She needed to know the full scope of the lie she'd been living. Over the next 3 days, while Derek was still supposedly in Phoenix, Maya became a detective in her own marriage. She took a personal day from work. She went through everything in the house with methodical precision. Bank statements, credit card bills, phone records, anything that might reveal the truth. What she found was worse than she'd imagined. Derek had a second credit card she'd never known about. The statements were delivered electronically to an email address she didn't have access to, but she found paper copies buried in a box in the garage, mixed in with old tax documents. Charges in Austin going back nearly 2 years. Every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. Hotels at first, then fewer hotel charges after a certain date. She realized why when she cross-referenced the timeline. He'd moved in with Jessica, or she'd moved in with him. They were living together. There were charges at baby stores. Target, Bye Bye Baby, a local Austin boutique that specialized in organic infant clothing. A payment to an obstetrician's office. Flowers delivered monthly to an Austin address. Jewelry purchases. Restaurant reservations. A charge for a photography session labeled maternity photos. Maya pulled up their joint bank account, the one they'd opened together when they got married, the one where their paychecks were deposited, where they paid their mortgage and utilities and groceries. She'd always let Derek handle the finances. He was better with numbers, he'd said. He enjoyed that kind of thing. She'd trusted him to manage their money responsibly. Now she looked at the statements with new eyes. Every month, large transfers went out to what was labeled as investment accounts. Derek had told her they were building their retirement, being smart with their money. She believed him. Why wouldn't she? They were married. They were partners. She called the bank, asked about the investment accounts. The representative told her there were no investment accounts linked to their joint checking. The transfers were going to an external account, a personal account in Derek's name only. Maya's hands started shaking again. "How much?" she asked. The representative couldn't access the external account, but she could tell Maya how much had been transferred over the past 2 years. The number made Maya's vision blur. Nearly $40,000. Taken from their joint account, money they were supposed to be saving for a house, for their future, and funneled into Derek's secret life in Austin. She found more. A loan taken out in both their names 6 months ago, $15,000. She'd never signed anything, but there was her signature on the digital documents, or something that looked enough like her signature that the bank had accepted it. Derek must have forged it. The savings account they'd started together, the one that was supposed to have nearly $30,000 by now, had less than $3,000. He'd been systematically draining it, month by month, while telling Maya they needed to be more careful with spending, that they should stick to a budget. She remembered him asking her to cut back on small luxuries. Coffee from the cafe near the hospital, new scrubs when her old ones wore out, a girls' weekend trip with Lauren that she'd ultimately canceled because Derek said they couldn't afford it right now. Meanwhile, he was spending hundreds of dollars a week maintaining his other life. Maya sat at their kitchen table surrounded by papers, trying to calculate the full financial damage. The stolen money, the forged loan, the secret credit card debt. He'd destroyed them financially while making her believe they were being responsible, building a future. But the money wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the time. The sheer amount of time he'd spent with Jessica. Maya had thought he was traveling for work 3 or 4 days a week. Now she realized those weren't work trips. Or if they had been initially, they'd evolved into something else. He was spending more time in Austin than he was spending in Columbus, more time with Jessica than with Maya. She called Derek's company, told the receptionist she was his wife, and needed to verify his travel schedule for tax purposes. The woman put her through to HR. Maya spoke to a sympathetic-sounding woman named Patricia, who initially seemed hesitant to share information. "I just need to know which conferences he attended this year," Maya said, keeping her voice steady. For our accountant, Patricia listed them. There were 5 legitimate conferences. 5 over the entire year. Derek had told Maya he'd been to more than 20. "And his sales territory," Maya continued. "Does it include Texas?" A pause. "No. Derek covers Ohio, Indiana, and parts of Michigan." "Why would he need to be in Texas?" Maya's throat tightened. "No reason. I must have misunderstood something. Thank you for your help." She was about to hang up when Patricia said quietly, "Mrs. Zero. Chen, is everything all right?" Something in her tone made Maya stop. "Why do you ask?" Another pause, longer this time. "I probably shouldn't say this, but I've been in HR a long time, and I've seen this kind of call before. If you're asking these questions, you probably already know the answers." "Tell me," Maya said. "There's a woman Derek brought to the company holiday party last year. He introduced her as his girlfriend. He told several people he was going through a separation, that he was moving to Austin for a fresh start. I'm sorry, I thought you knew." Maya thanked her and ended the call. She sat in the silence of her kitchen, the afternoon light slanting through the windows, illuminating the dust motes in the air. Derek had told his coworkers they were separating. He'd brought Jessica to company events. He'd started building his exit from this marriage more than a year ago, and Maya had never suspected a thing. She kept digging. She created a fake Instagram account and started following Jessica's friends, looking through their photos and posts. She found pictures from a party 8 months ago, a birthday celebration for Jessica at a bar in Austin. Derek was in the background of several shots, his arm around Jessica, laughing with her friends. The captions called him Jess's fiancé, said how cute they were together, how perfect they were for each other. She found a post from Jessica's mother, dated 4 months ago, a photo of Jessica and Derek at what looked like a family dinner. The caption read, "So grateful my daughter found such a wonderful man. Can't wait to be a grandmother." Maya zoomed in on the photo. Derek looked relaxed, happy, completely at ease with Jessica's family. The same way he looked with Maya's parents. The same easy charm, the same warm smile. He was performing the role of devoted partner, and he was equally convincing in both places. How did someone do this? How did someone maintain 2 completely separate lives, 2 complete relationships, without either woman suspecting? The logistics alone seemed impossible. The emotional energy it must require, the constant lies, the careful management of schedules and stories and details. Maya went through Derek's closet. She found clothes she'd never seen him wear, expensive button-downs and designer jeans still with tags attached, hidden in the back, behind his winter coats. She found a second phone charger, the kind for a different phone model than the one she knew he had. She found receipts in jacket pockets for purchases in Austin, dates that corresponded with times he'd told her he was in Chicago or Indianapolis or Detroit. Every discovery was another small death. Another piece of their marriage revealed as fiction. Lauren came over that evening. She brought wine and takeout and sat with Maya while she explained everything she'd found. Lauren listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each revelation. "You need to call that lawyer," Lauren said when Maya finished. "Tomorrow, first thing." "I don't want to just divorce him quietly," Maya said. "Jessica deserves to know the truth." Lauren looked at her carefully. "Are you sure? She's 8 months pregnant? That's a lot to drop on someone in that condition. If I were her, I'd want to know," Maya said. "Wouldn't you?" Lauren nodded slowly. "Yeah, I would. She thinks she's building a life with him. She thinks he's going to be there when the baby comes. She's making plans for a wedding. She deserves to know that he's lying to her the same way he lied to me. What are you going to do?" Maya had been thinking about this all day. "I'm going to Austin. I'm going to tell her in person." "Maya, I don't know if that's a good idea. What if she doesn't believe you? What if she gets upset and something happens with the pregnancy?" "I have proof," Maya said. "Screenshots, bank statements, everything. And I'll be careful. I'll make sure she's sitting down, that she has support. But I can't just let her marry him without knowing who he really is." Lauren was quiet for a moment. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No. This is something I need to do alone." Over the next 2 days, Maya prepared. She contacted a divorce lawyer in Columbus, a woman who specialized in cases involving financial fraud. The lawyer told her to document everything, which Maya had already done. She explained that the forged loan signature would be particularly important, that it constituted fraud and could have criminal implications. "Do you want to press charges?" the lawyer asked. Maya hadn't thought about that. I don't know, I just want to get away from him. Think about it, the lawyer said. You don't have to decide now, but it's an option. Maya printed copies of everything, the photos of Derek and Jessica, the bank statements showing the transfers, the forged loan documents, the credit card bills from Austin. She organized them in a folder, clinical and methodical, preparing to present evidence of her husband's double life to the woman carrying his child. Derek was due home in 2 days. He'd been texting her normally throughout his trip, the same loving messages he always sent. Miss you. Can't wait to be home. Love you. Each message was another knife. She responded with brief acknowledgments, unable to match his false warmth, but not ready to confront him yet. She booked a flight to Austin. Early Saturday morning, returning Sunday evening. She'd tell her parents she was visiting a friend from nursing school who'd moved to Texas. She practiced the lie until it sounded natural. She was becoming a liar too, she realized. Derek had taught her well. The night before her flight, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in their bed, in the dark, thinking about all the nights she'd slept here alone while Derek was in Austin with Jessica. All the times he'd called her from hotel rooms that weren't actually hotel rooms, from a life he'd built with someone else. She thought about Jessica, 8 months pregnant, probably uncomfortable and excited and nervous about becoming a mother. Probably trusting Derek completely the way Maya had trusted him. Probably making plans for their future, decorating a nursery, picking out names, imagining the family they'd be. Maya felt a strange kinship with this woman she'd never met. They were both victims of the same man, the same elaborate performance. Derek had looked at both of them and decided they were useful for different purposes. Maya for stability and cover. Jessica for whatever she represented to him. Youth, maybe. A fresh start. A chance to play a different role. Or maybe there was no logic to it. Maybe Derek was simply capable of loving 2 people simultaneously, of maintaining 2 relationships without seeing the contradiction. Maybe he'd compartmentalized so effectively that when he was with Maya, he was fully present, and when he was with Jessica, she had his complete attention. Maybe he genuinely believed he could sustain both lives indefinitely. Maya didn't care about his psychology anymore. She didn't care about understanding him. She only cared about making sure both women knew the truth before he could hurt them any further. She picked up her phone in the darkness, looked at the most recent text from Derek. Thinking of you. Sweet dreams. She typed a response. You too. Then she deleted it and typed instead, see you soon, because she would see him soon. After Austin, after she'd destroyed his carefully constructed lie, after both women in his life knew exactly who he was, then she'd see him, and she'd watch his face when he realized that his performance was over, that the curtain had finally fallen, and there was nowhere left for him to hide. Maya closed her eyes. Tomorrow she'd fly to Austin. Tomorrow she'd meet Jessica. Tomorrow she'd speak the words that would shatter another woman's world the way hers had been shattered. It felt cruel, but it was also necessary, because the truth, no matter how painful, was better than continuing to live inside someone else's lie. She thought about the photo that had started everything. Derek kissing Jessica's temple, both of them smiling, the caption about their daughter. She wondered if Derek had ever looked at her with that same tenderness, if any moment of their marriage had been real, or if it had all been performance from the very beginning. She'd probably never know, and maybe that was the worst part of all. Not just the betrayal, but the uncertainty, the knowledge that she'd never be able to trust her own memories, her own perception of what their relationship had been. He'd contaminated everything, even the past. Maya opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling. In less than 12 hours, she'd be on a plane. In less than 24 hours, she'd be standing at Jessica Hartley's door. And then both of them would begin the hard work of untangling themselves from a man who'd woven lies so intricate, so complete, that neither of them had seen the web until they were already caught. The flight to Austin was only 2.5 hours, but it felt endless. Maya sat in her window seat watching clouds drift past, her stomach twisted into knots. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jessica's smiling face from the Instagram photos, radiant and pregnant and completely unaware that her entire life was about to implode. Maya had the folder in her bag. Evidence organized chronologically, every photo printed, every bank statement highlighted. She'd rehearsed what she would say 100 times, practiced different approaches, different tones. How did you tell a stranger that the man she loved, the father of her unborn child, was living a double life? The plane touched down at 11 in the morning. Austin was warm, the sky impossibly blue. Maya had never been to Texas before. Under different circumstances, she might have appreciated the novelty of a new city. Instead, she felt numb as she collected her rental car and programmed Jessica's address into the GPS. The drive took 30 minutes. Jessica lived in a neighborhood of modest, single-family homes with neat lawns and basketball hoops and driveways. Normal, suburban. The kind of place where young families settle down to build their lives. Maya pulled up across the street from the address and sat in the car, engine idling, heart hammering against her ribs. A silver Honda was parked in the driveway. Someone was home. This was real. This was actually happening. Maya turned off the engine, sat in silence for a moment, gathering courage. Then she picked up the folder, got out of the car, and walked across the street before she could change her mind. The house was painted pale blue with white trim. A garden gnome sat beside the front steps. A wreath hung on the door, cheerful and welcoming. Maya's hand trembled as she raised it to knock. Footsteps inside. The door opened. Jessica Hartley stood in the doorway, and Maya's breath caught. She looked exactly like her photos, but somehow more real, more human. 8 months pregnant, wearing leggings and an oversized t-shirt, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun. Her face was open, friendly, curious about the stranger on her doorstep. "Can I help you?" Jessica asked. Maya's rehearsed speech evaporated. She stood there, mute, staring at this woman who had no idea what was about to happen. "Are you okay?" Jessica's expression shifted to concern. "Do you need help?" "I'm Maya," she managed to say. "Maya Chen. I'm Derek's wife." The words hung in the air between them. Maya watched Jessica's face, saw confusion flicker across it, then incomprehension, then something that might have been the beginning of fear. "I don't understand," Jessica said slowly. "Derek's what?" "His wife," Maya repeated. Her voice was steadier now. "We've been married for 3 years. I live with him in Columbus, Ohio, and I need to talk to you." Jessica's hand moved instinctively to her belly, protective. "This is some kind of mistake. Derek isn't married. We're engaged. We're having a baby." "I know," Maya said gently. "I know about the baby. I know about the engagement. I know everything, and I can prove it. Please, can I come in? I think you should sit down." Jessica stared at her for a long moment. Maya could see the war happening behind her eyes. The desperate desire to slam the door and make this stranger go away versus the terrible curiosity about what proof she could possibly have. Finally, Jessica stepped back and let Maya inside. The living room was filled with evidence of impending motherhood. A baby swing in the corner, a stack of parenting books on the coffee table, framed ultrasound photos on the wall. Maya saw Jessica notice her looking, saw her expression harden. "I don't know what you think you're proving by coming here," Jessica said, lowering herself carefully onto the couch. "But Derek would have told me if he was married. We don't have secrets." Maya sat in the chair across from her and opened the folder. "I thought the same thing," she said quietly. "I thought we didn't have secrets either." She handed Jessica the first document, their marriage certificate. Jessica took it with shaking hands, stared at the official seal, the signatures, the date. 3 years ago, months before she'd even met Derek. "This could be fake," Jessica whispered, but her voice had no conviction. Maya handed her the next items, photos of their wedding. Maya in her dress, Derek in his tux, both of them smiling at the camera, their family surrounding them. The date stamp clearly visible. Jessica's face had gone pale. "I don't understand. Why would he?" "There's more," Maya said. She handed over the bank statements showing their joint account, Derek's name and hers linked together, the mortgage documents for their house in Columbus, insurance papers listing her as his spouse, text messages from just this week where Derek told Maya he loved her and couldn't wait to come home. Jessica looked through each piece of evidence with growing horror. Her hands trembled. Tears started sliding down her cheeks. "When did you meet him?" Maya asked gently. 18 months ago, Jessica said, her voice barely audible. "At a friend's party, he said he'd just moved to Austin for work. He said he was single. He pursued me. He was so attentive, so interested in everything about me. We started dating, and it just felt right, like I'd found my person." Maya did know. She knew exactly what that felt like. "He proposed 6 months ago," Jessica continued. "Took me to this beautiful restaurant, got down on one knee. I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world." She looked down at the ring on her finger. "Is this even real? Or is everything a lie?" "I don't know," Maya said honestly. "I've been asking myself the same questions." Jessica wiped at her tears with the back of her hand. "I'm 8 months pregnant. We're supposed to get married after the baby comes. He's been to every doctor's appointment. He helped me pick out the crib. He talks to my stomach every night before bed. How is any of this possible?" "He travels for work," Maya said. "Or that's what he tells both of us." 3, 4 days a week. I thought he was at conferences. He probably thought he was in Ohio managing his territory. Jessica nodded slowly. He said his job required him to be in Columbus regularly, for meetings with the main office. He'd be gone 3 days, sometimes 4, then come back. I just thought that was his schedule. He was with me, Maya said. Those days he was gone from you, he was home with me. And the days he was gone from me, he was here with you. The full scope of the deception was settling over Jessica now. Maya watched her process it, saw the same stages she'd gone through herself. Disbelief, horror, then a desperate scramble to find some explanation that made sense. Maybe he was planning to tell you, Jessica said. Maybe he was trying to figure out how to end things with you before the baby came. Maybe, Jessica. Maya's voice was firm but not unkind. He texted me yesterday saying he couldn't wait to come home. He calls me every night when he's here with you. He's not planning to leave me. He's planning to keep doing exactly what he's been doing, living 2 separate lives and hoping neither of us ever finds out about the other. Jessica's face crumpled. She started crying in earnest now, deep sobs that shook her whole body. Maya got up and moved to sit beside her on the couch, putting an arm around her shoulders. It felt surreal, comforting the woman her husband had been cheating with. But Jessica wasn't the enemy here. They were both victims. "I'm so stupid," Jessica choked out between sobs. "How did I not see it? How did I not know?" "You're not stupid," Maya said. "He's incredibly good at this. He's had practice. I didn't see it either, and I've been with him for 5 years." They sat like that for a while, Jessica crying and Maya holding her, 2 women bound together by the same betrayal. Eventually, Jessica's sobs quieted. She pulled away, wiping her face. "Does he know you're here?" she asked. "No. He thinks I'm home in Ohio. He thinks everything is normal. When does he come back?" "To Austin. I don't know his schedule with you. He's supposed to come home to me tomorrow night." Jessica laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. "He's supposed to be here tonight. He texted me this morning that his meetings in Columbus wrapped up early and he'd be home for dinner." Of course he did. Derek was nothing if not efficient with his time management. "What are you going to do?" Maya asked. "I don't know." Jessica's hand rested on her belly. "I'm having his baby in 4 weeks. I can't just erase him from my life." "You don't have to decide everything right now," Maya said. "But you should know the full truth before he gets here. Before you talk to him." She showed Jessica the rest of the evidence. The financial fraud, the money Derek had stolen from their joint account to support his life in Austin, the forged loan signature, the credit card statements. The proof that he'd been systematically lying to both of them about every aspect of his life. "He told me he was doing well with the sales commissions," Jessica said numbly. "He paid for everything. The rent on this house, the baby furniture, all of it. I thought he was just generous." "He was generous with my money," Maya said. "Our money, money we were supposed to be saving for our future." Jessica stood up abruptly and walked to the window, staring out at the quiet street. "I need you to leave," she said. "I need to think. I need to figure out what I'm going to do." "Of course." Maya gathered the folder, leaving copies of everything for Jessica to keep. "I'm staying at a hotel near the airport. If you need anything, if you want to talk, here's my number." She wrote it on a piece of paper and left it on the coffee table. Jessica didn't turn around. Maya let herself out, walked back to her rental car on legs that felt unsteady. She sat behind the wheel for a moment, watching Jessica's house. Through the window, she could see Jessica's silhouette, still standing motionless, staring out at nothing. Maya drove back to her hotel. She booked a room near the airport, planning to fly out the next morning. But now she wasn't sure if she should leave. What if Jessica needed her? What if Derek showed up and things got ugly? She called Lauren. "How did it go?" Lauren asked immediately. "She knows everything now. I showed her all the evidence. She asked me to leave, but I gave her my number." Maya's voice cracked. "Lauren, she's 8 months pregnant." She was crying so hard. I felt like I was destroying her life. "He didn't destroy anything," Lauren said firmly. "Derek did this. He just made sure she knew the truth before she married him. What if something happens to the baby? What if the stress—" "Maya, stop. You did the right thing. She deserved to know." Maya wasn't sure she believed that. She felt cruel, monstrous, like she deliberately hurt an innocent person. But what was the alternative? Let Jessica marry Derek without knowing who he really was. Let her build her life on the same foundation of lies Maya had been living on. Her phone rang an hour later. "Unknown number," Maya answered. "It's Jessica." Her voice was hoarse from crying. "He's here. He just got to the house. I told him we needed to talk and he knows something's wrong. I don't know if I can do this alone." "Can you? Would you come back?" Maya's heart was pounding. "Are you sure? I need him to see both of us. I need him to know that we talk to each other, please. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Maya drove back to Jessica's house with her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her fingers ached. Derek's car was in the driveway now, the same car that sat in their driveway in Columbus. She parked across the street and texted Jessica, "I'm here." The front door opened. Jessica stood there, her face blotchy from crying but her expression determined. She nodded at Maya. Maya walked across the street for the second time that day. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. This was it. The moment of confrontation. The moment Derek's carefully constructed lie would collapse completely. She stepped into the house. Derek was standing in the living room, his back to the door. He turned when he heard footsteps. The look on his face when he saw Maya was something she would remember for the rest of her life. Shock. Incomprehension. Then, as understanding dawned, a kind of desperate panic. "Maya." His voice was strangled. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," Maya said, "but I already know the answer." He looked between her and Jessica, calculating. She could see his mind working frantically, trying to find an explanation, a story that could somehow make this okay. "This isn't what it looks like," he started. "Don't," Jessica said sharply. "Don't you dare insult us both by pretending this is something other than what it is. Jess, baby, let me explain. Don't call me that." Jessica's voice was ice. "You don't get to use pet names right now. You don't get to act like everything is normal." Maya moved to stand beside Jessica, united front, two women who barely knew each other but were bound by the same betrayal. Derek stared at them both. She watched and realized there was no talking his way out of this, no charm or manipulation that would work. They knew everything. "How long were you planning to keep this going?" Maya asked. "Were you just going to live two separate lives forever? Raise a child with Jessica while coming home to me? How exactly did you think this would end?" He didn't answer, just stood there, silent. "I showed her everything," Maya continued. "The bank statements, the forged loan, every lie you told both of us. She knows about our house in Columbus. I know about the baby. We compared notes, Derek. We know exactly who you are now." "I love you both," he said finally, and Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of it. "You don't know what love is," Jessica said. "Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't steal and forge signatures and build entire fake lives." "I was going to tell you," Derek said desperately, "both of you. I just needed time to figure out how." "Stop." Maya held up her hand. "Just stop talking. We don't want to hear it. We don't want your explanations or your justifications. We want you to leave." "This is my house," Derek said to Jessica. "I pay the rent." "With stolen money," Maya shot back. "With money you took from our joint account without my knowledge or permission. You want to have that conversation, because my lawyer would love to have it with you." Something shifted in Derek's expression. The panic was being replaced by something colder. "You went through my accounts?" "I went through our accounts," Maya corrected. "The ones with both our names on them. The ones you were systematically draining to fund your other life." "You had no right." "I had every right." Maya's voice rose. "I'm your wife. Or did you forget that when you proposed to Jessica, when you started planning a wedding with her while you were still married to me?" Derek's jaw clenched. The mask was slipping now. The charming facade was cracking, and underneath was something uglier, anger, resentment that he'd been caught. "Get out," Jessica said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Get out of this house right now. Jess, my name is Jessica, and I want you to leave. Take your things and go. We're having a baby in 4 weeks. I don't care." Jessica's eyes were hard. "I don't want you here. I don't want you at the birth. I don't want you anywhere near me or my daughter. You can't keep my child from me. Watch me," Jessica said. "Get a lawyer if you want. But right now, get out of my house." Derek looked at Maya, perhaps hoping for some sympathy, some softening. He found none. "You destroyed everything," Maya said quietly. "Our marriage, our finances, any chance of a future together. And for what? So you could play house with someone else while keeping me as your safety net." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Derek? Explain it to me. Make it make sense." He couldn't. He opened his mouth, closed it again. There was no explanation that would justify what he'd done. No story he could tell that would make either of them understand. He grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair and walked toward the door. Paused there, turned back. "This is a mistake," he said. "Both of you are making a huge mistake. You're upset right now. You're not thinking clearly. Get out," both women said in unison. He left. They heard his car start, the sound of tires on the driveway, then silence. Jessica sank onto the couch, her hand on her belly. Maya sat beside her. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. "What happens now?" Jessica finally asked. "Now we rebuild," Maya said, "separately in our own ways. But we survived this. I don't know if I can do this alone. The baby, you won't be alone. You have family, friends, and you have my number if you meet someone who understands." Jessica looked at her. "Why are you being kind to me? I'm the other woman. I'm the person your husband was cheating with." "You didn't know," Maya said simply. "And neither did I. We're both his victims. That's not your fault." They sat together as the afternoon light faded. Two women who should have been enemies, but instead found themselves bound by a strange kind of solidarity. Eventually, Maya left, drove back to her hotel, booked a flight home for the next morning. She called her lawyer from the airport. "I want to file for divorce immediately, and I want to press charges for the fraud." "Are you sure about the criminal charges?" the lawyer asked. "I'm sure." Derek called her 17 times that night. She didn't answer. He texted paragraphs of explanations and apologies and justifications. She didn't read them. She blocked his number. The divorce took 3 months. Derek fought it initially, tried to argue for reconciliation. But the evidence was overwhelming. The forged loan, the financial fraud, the bigamous proposal to Jessica. His lawyer advised him to settle. Maya got the house. Derek had to repay every dollar he'd stolen from their joint account. His company fired him when the truth came out, not because of the personal drama, but because he'd been falsifying expense reports, claiming personal trips as business travel. Jessica gave birth to a daughter in late March. She named her Lily. Derek was on the birth certificate, but Jessica filed for sole custody. He fought it and lost. The court granted him supervised visitation and ordered him to pay child support. Maya never went back to the house in Columbus. She hired movers to pack her things and put the house on the market. She took a job at a hospital in Chicago, started fresh in a city where nothing reminded her of Derek. Her parents were devastated. Her mother cried for weeks, blamed herself for pushing Maya toward marriage, for trusting Derek so completely. Her father wanted to confront him, but Maya talked him out of it. There was nothing left to say. Lauren visited her in Chicago a month after the divorce was finalized. They sat in Maya's new apartment, smaller than the house but filled with light, and drank wine. "How are you doing?" Lauren asked. "Really? I don't know," Maya said honestly. "Some days I'm okay. Some days I can't believe any of it was real. I keep thinking I'll wake up and it will have been a nightmare." "Have you heard from him?" "He tries to contact me sometimes. Different numbers, email addresses. I block them all. I don't want to hear from him ever again." "And Jessica?" "We text occasionally. She sends me photos of the baby sometimes. I think it helps her to talk to someone who understands what she went through." "That's big of you." Maya shrugged. "She's raising his child. That's harder than what I'm dealing with. At least I get to walk away completely." Lauren studied her. "Do you regret going to Austin?" "Telling her?" Maya thought about it. "No, she deserved to know before she married him, before she built her whole life around a lie the way I did. I just wish I'd known sooner. I wish there had been some sign, something I could have seen." "There probably were signs," Lauren said gently. "We're just not trained to look for them. We're trained to trust the people we love." That was the hardest part, Maya had realized, not the divorce or the financial mess or even the humiliation. It was the loss of trust, not just in Derek, but in her own judgment. She'd loved him, believed in him, built her future around him, and she'd been completely wrong about who he was. She started therapy, worked through the anger and grief and self-blame. Her therapist helped her understand that Derek's ability to deceive wasn't a reflection of her naivety. Some people were simply skilled manipulators. They studied you, learned what you wanted to hear, became exactly what you needed them to be. "You weren't stupid," her therapist said. "You were human. And being human means trusting people sometimes. That's not a weakness." But it felt like a weakness. It felt like she should have known, should have sensed something was wrong. All the business trips, the time away, the careful management of his schedule. How had she not questioned it? A year after the divorce, Maya went on a date. A doctor she worked with at the new hospital. Nice guy, respectful, genuinely interested in getting to know her. They had coffee, talked for 2 hours. He asked to see her again. She said yes, but felt panic rising in her chest the moment the word left her mouth. What if he was lying too? What if everyone was lying? How could she ever trust anyone again? She canceled the second date, sent him a text apologizing, saying she wasn't ready. He was understanding, wished her well. Lauren called her that night. Maya told her what happened. "You don't have to date yet," Lauren said. "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for." "What if I'm never ready?" Maya asked. What if Derek broke something in me permanently? He didn't break you, he hurt you. There's a difference, and hurt heals eventually. Maya wanted to believe that. Some days she did believe it. Other days she felt like Derek had stolen more than just 3 years of her life. He'd stolen her ability to believe in love, in partnership, in the possibility of building something real with another person. She thought about Jessica often, wondered how she was managing single motherhood. Whether she'd told her daughter about her father yet, or she was waiting until Lily was old enough to understand. Whether she'd forgiven Derek, or at least made peace with what happened. 2 years after everything fell apart, Maya received a message from Jessica on social media. Just a simple note. Thank you for telling me the truth. I think about that a lot. You saved me from marrying him. I'll always be grateful for that. Maya cried when she read it. Not from sadness, but from something else. Relief, maybe, or validation. The confirmation that she'd done the right thing, even though it was the hardest thing. She responded, "Thank you for believing me. I know it wasn't easy. How are you doing?" They messaged back and forth for a while. Jessica had gone back to school, was studying to become a dental hygienist supervisor. Lily was thriving, a bright, happy toddler who loved books and singing. Derek saw her once a month, supervised visits at a family center. Jessica had started dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher who knew her whole history and loved her anyway. "I'm happy for you," Maya wrote. And she meant it. She wasn't there yet herself. Wasn't sure when she would be, but she was rebuilding. Slowly, one day at a time. She'd learned to trust herself again, to believe in her own strength. She'd survived something that could have destroyed her, and she'd come out the other side intact. The photo that started everything was gone now, deleted from Derek's phone, from the cloud, from everywhere Maya could find it. But she remembered it perfectly. The image of Derek and Jessica, smiling and expectant, preparing for a future built on lies. That future never happened. Instead, both women had built different futures. Harder ones, lonelier ones perhaps, but real ones, honest ones. And maybe that was the final lesson Derek had taught them, though he'd never meant to. That truth, no matter how painful, was always better than a beautiful lie. That being alone was better than being with someone who made you doubt your own reality. That some cages were so beautifully decorated you didn't realize you were trapped until someone showed you the bars. Maya had found the photo. And yes, it had destroyed her family. But families built on deception were never real families to begin with. They were performances, illusions, houses of cards waiting for the slightest wind to bring them crashing down. She'd been the wind, and though the crash had been devastating, at least now she was standing in the rubble with clear eyes, seeing everything exactly as it was. No more illusions, no more lies. Just the hard, honest truth of who she was and what she'd survived. And that truth, painful as it was, had set her free.